So we're talking about 80% of the population that is already homeless, is trying to seek shelter wherever is possible, is almost 100% reliant on humanitarian aid. The needs are immense because people are being kind of victim of what is happening there. So when I say so, what does it mean is, like, as a medical humanitarian organization, the hospitals and the clinics where we support, we are seeing a non-stop flow of patients, and with dangerously low supplies, especially the medical ones, and limited health facilities where we can operate, because most of the health facilities are either non-functional, damaged, or do not have supplies to operate. What is important here is that we need to look at Gaza not just from October 7 point of view, but a bit to the context of that Gaza is also has been termed as world's largest open-air prison. So which would mean that this was an area which was already under a 16-year blockade, and the supplies were limited, and they were rationed when they would come into Gaza. So there are few access points which were enabling that flow of supplies. So when I say so, what does it mean is, like, as a medical humanitarian organization, the hospitals and the clinics where we support, we are seeing a non-stop flow of patients, and with dangerously low supplies, especially the medical ones, and limited health facilities where we can operate, because most of the health facilities are either non-functional, damaged, or do not have supplies to operate. At that point of time, we did have some reserves which would count for somewhere for 3 months supply, but that was finished in 3 to 5 days. That was the number of injured people that were being rushing towards the different hospitals where we were working. And since then, we have been extremely, I would say, creative in looking at solutions, but unfortunately, our frontline workers, our medical doctors, our surgeons also had to make very uncomfortable and very disturbing choices of sometimes operating patients without anesthesia, struggling, what does it mean post-surgical care. We are talking about lack of antibiotic, we're talking about painkillers not being available. So these are the conditions that our teams have also witnessed while treating patients. What we also have been looking at is, like, we have in the southern part, because of that part is also not kind of left out of bombings. There have been incidents of bombings also in the southern part of Gaza. So we have been trying to see how do we support the primary healthcare centers, and we have donated 26 tons of medical supplies and medical equipment to these primary health centers, in addition to us being treating in different facilities. To start with, there is nowhere safe in Gaza, and unfortunately this conflict has disregarded every principle of humanity and every law that governs the rules of conflict. So the international humanitarian law is not being respected, it's being disregarded. So what does that mean for us is that hospitals, medical facilities, healthcare facilities, health workers are under attack. And unfortunately, we have been a witness but also a victim of that. We have also lost our colleagues in these last 7 weeks. They have lost their family members, they have lost their homes, they are displaced. So in a situation where you, as a medical humanitarian organization, would usually do your medical treatment and witness what is happening on the ground, we are also being a victim of this. We have only been able to rotate our international team twice. So once the team that was existing on the ground, they managed to leave, and then we got another team by 16th of November. So it's a team that constitutes of surgeons, anesthesiologists, intensive care unit specialists, nurses, some logisticians, and some management people to kind of keep the system running. The workload is not 2 times, it's not 3 times. It is immense, and our teams have to do triage. So we are only trying to do as much as we can do, and we have the capacity to do more. But what we see is like there is only one access point that is open at this point of time, and that is also highly controlled, that is Rafah. And Rafah border was never meant to deal with this volume and such a situation. So we urge all the parties in the conflict to open other access points for us to bring in much needed impartial humanitarian aid. It's been extremely challenging. It's very chaotic, and we have had challenges in making sure that we stay in contact with our staff. So in these 7 weeks, there were 2 times when there was a complete blackout, communication blackout, and we could not reach our teams. We lost contact with our teams, and we do know that the network is disturbed, not because of lack of electricity, because all the network towers are damaged. So in such a situation where there is no electricity, there is no fuel, how are you going to expect to charge your phones and everything? So from that point of view, it has been extremely challenging, and we have been using every possible means to stay in touch with our teams. And it's difficult to coordinate in such an environment. Like when there is a communication blackout, we are talking about ambulances that do not have kind of a proper network to know where to go and search for injured and bring injured to the hospitals. So as much as it is from outside of Gaza to be in touch with the teams, it's also within Gaza how the teams have been coordinating and being in touch with each other. So quite a bit challenging, but as we've been using cell phones, we have been using every alternate ways possible to stay in touch with the team, but with lots of challenges, of course. The first thing we are taught is to treat patients. You never abandon your patients. I think that ethos of being a medical professional and not leaving your patient is something that stays irrespective. So the danger that brings to an individual health professional, a medical worker, in a context where hospitals are being bombed, ambulances are being attacked, nobody is spared. So that duty of doing your medical action is I think prime, and we are in a state where we're talking about survival. We are not talking about hope. So here people are just bare minimum survival. That is what is happening now. I already alluded to that Gaza has been under a blockade which has been already long, and in 2019 we started a program calling Help the Helper, which was aimed at looking at the overall well-being of frontline workers. But with now the current situation, we are talking about a trauma that is of a scale that is unimaginable. In addition to the war trauma, the trauma of seeing your patients die that could be saved because there is no supplies, the electricity is not there. So that distress of seeing that you cannot save your patients, you cannot treat your patients, puts the health workers at a very, I would say, traumatic kind of state of mind. And the third one is exhaustion. Usually what we would do in any context is that we would rotate teams to allow people to have some sort of downtime for them to regain their energy to come back and operate and work. And this context we have been, hardly I told you, twice we have managed to rotate our teams. And those teams are also working with an influx of patients that is not normal. So we are not talking about that we have 10 surgeries and then people get a few hours to rest. It's 24/7, people are working, and it's also about refusing patients because the hospitals are overflowing. MSF has been asking for a sustained ceasefire because for us, we want to be able to do our medical work on the ground. Because of indiscriminate bombing and no space for us to go safely, because our safety of staff is also very important, and to enable that we have been asking for a sustained ceasefire for many weeks now. We as a medical humanitarian organization have been working all around the world. We see, we witness, and our testimonies from our staff from the ground have concluded that this is the worst we have seen around many conflicts, especially because what we see is like there is no distinction between civil and non-combatants. There is no respect for hospitals, health facilities, health workers and ambulances. So in such an environment, we are urging the world leaders, we are urging the international community to do more for a sustained ceasefire. We want the siege to be lifted for us and many other medical, humanitarian and other organizations to come and work on the ground, because the needs are immense. We are talking about more than 20,000 people injured. We are talking about a large number of people that have been killed in last 7 weeks. But we can ask, and we will keep on asking about the ceasefire, the sustained ceasefire. Stop the siege, stop the massacre, allow us to bring in unconditional aid to much needed population. And to do so, all around the world, MSF has decided to write to the world leaders and ask from them, implore them to do more in their bilateral capacity at multilateral bodies to put and exert influence on Israel to stop the siege, to stop the massacre.